You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Welcome to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. Father Greg Sakowicz, Rector of Holy Name Cathedral in Chicago, and co-host Mark Teresi, Executive Director of the Cathedral. Now, today's program is being pre-recorded to be played back on December 30th and January 4th. So as we sit here before Christmas, to those very blessed Christmas coming up, which is already over, and a happy blessed New Year, which just sounds like who's on first. How you doing, Mark?
Good. How was your Christmas?
Yeah, how was Christmas? I pray to God it went very, very well.
Yes.
It will go very well. And it until at least this part of December, the weather has been wonderful. So you can also get us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago and WNDZ 750 AM. Great program lined up. We have with us via live stream Rob Kaczmarek, President and CEO of Spirit Juice Studios. And Spirit Juice Studios produced a documentary about Dodgers great Gil Hodges. Now we're talking about baseball here. That's just tremendous. So, good morning, Rob. How are you?
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. Very
now,
good.
You are live streaming, calling us from where? Where's home?
Home is in Orland, but I'm actually from the office, which is in Alsip, so on the south suburbs of Chicago.
Now, where'd you go to high school?
I went to Oak Lawn High School.
Oh, you did. So then you are a Chicago native.
I'm a Chicago native. Yeah, born and raised. I grew up in Oak Lawn. Pretty much lived on the south suburbs my whole life. So haven't ventured too far from my residence.
So where'd you go to high school?
I went to Oak Lawn High School.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what about the Chicago question? What parish did you grow up near?
St. Germain.
Okay.
St. Germain in Oak Lawn.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Now, even a bigger question, are you a White Sox or Cubs fan?
Oh, come on. I mean, if you're from the South Side, you're a Sox fan.
I'm a North Sider and I'm a Sox fan.
You could turn my turn my picture off.
Mark is a big Cubs fan. But listen, I think a way to begin, Rob, is you are president and CEO of Spirit Juice Studios. What is Spirit Juice Studios, and what do you do? Because it's a fascinating title.
Sure. Thank you. So we're a Catholic film and production company. So basically, Catholic organizations, dioceses hire us to make videos for them. And these videos range anything from short form content that would go online on YouTube or on Facebook, Instagram, or long form content, documentaries that would air on TV. And we've had the pleasure to work with a lot of incredible organizations, most notably Word on Fire. We've got to work with Bishop Barron a number of times. The Knights of Columbus we work with quite a bit, and just a lot of other incredible organizations that support the great work of the church.
When did you find this company? What year?
So it started officially as what it is now in 2007. So we're going on our 15th year. Prior to that, it actually Spirit Juice started in 2004. For the first couple of years, we were actually a radio show on Relevant Radio, and we played Catholic music for
great.
like youth. It was a youth-oriented radio program. So, and I hosted that, and that sort of evolved into the
now,
production
it's very
company that we
interesting
are now.
because between 1982 and 1984, I was a priest disc jockey on Q101. Had a
Q101.
Q101. And there was a half-hour radio program in the morning. We taped it ahead of time, but I would take the top 40 hits and intersperse with a religious theme: mercy, forgiveness, love, relationships. Always had a God message. Had a little thought paragraph, song, a little thought, song. So in many ways, I think you were doing the same thing with your radio program on Relevant Radio as almost like a disc jockey.
Yeah, but well, also that's amazing. I never knew that. I want to hear these. Are they like archived anywhere?
They might be, but
They're dusty.
they're dusty. In fact, these were probably being
We'll
aired
clean them
before you were
off. That
born.
is the coolest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, priest DJ. So it going way back. But now listen, when I saw that you had done a documentary about Gil Hodges, that really piqued my interest. Now we all know, for those that know, Gil Hodges, a great baseball player, Brooklyn Dodgers, the Los Angeles Dodgers, had an 18-year career, mostly as a first baseman and somewhat of an outfielder. But now you produced a
Excuse
documentary.
me, wasn't he with the Mets too?
Uh,
Was he with the Mets?
did he manage the Mets or something?
Yeah, the Miracle Mets. So he played for the Dodgers. He played for the Mets for like a second, but then managed the Mets for
Right.
for a couple of years. But the second year was in '69, which they won the World Series, and
Yeah.
it's attributed to that.
Was he a catcher?
No, first baseman.
First baseman?
And a little bit of an outfielder. But that's right. He was the manager for the Miracle Mets in '69
Oh, that's how I know
when they
his
beat
name.
the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah.
Am I right there? They beat the
He
Orioles
also
in '69.
displaced the Cubs
Uh,
from contention
Yeah, exactly. The Mets caught the Cubs in
in
'69.
September.
The Cubs had like a 12-game lead in mid-August, caught them and passed them, and then just caught fire and beat the Baltimore Orioles in the World Series.
So this is a real upbeat show for me. Thank you very much, Rob.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Well, the thing is, now, Gil Hodges was just recently inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, but now you had a part to play with it because you did a half-hour documentary. How did that all come about, and who asked you to do that, Rob?
So this came about, I would say, 2-3 years ago. Catholic Athletes for Christ, who's run by Ray McKenna and Kevin O'Malley. I've had a great relationship with them for a number of years, and also David Natalari from the Knights of Columbus I've worked with, and the four of us have sort of, worked on different projects that incorporate professional athletes in the Catholic faith. And so in a conversation, Gil Hodges came up. Gil Hodges was a very active practicing Catholic, never missed Mass. In the documentary, they talk about, like, he was on the road. That didn't matter. He was always there at Mass every Sunday, and many other things in his life were attributed to his faith. So they talked about how Gil, I had never heard of Gil several years ago. And so they, told me a little about his story and said, he really deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. We have a lot of notable athletes and professional sports people that, can speak highly of him. And so the idea of let's make a documentary, because the vote to get him into the hall was coming up. I mean, it just passed now, it's December 5th. And perhaps, just perhaps, maybe this documentary could motivate the voters and the people to rally around this. And so I signed on because, for me, anyone that can live their faith in their life and live it in such a profound way. And if you watch the documentary, you could just see how much it impacted his life in so many different facets. That spoke to me. And then, just being a Sox fan, a baseball fan, really, White Sox, Cubs, it doesn't matter. It's all baseball. And growing up playing baseball, and it just really, I was like, yeah, I want to be involved in this in whatever level I could. And so, it started a little bit organically in the sense of who could we just gather? And so we were able to interview Vin Scully, Tommy Lasorda, Gil Hodges Jr., his son, Cleon, a bunch of the list kept growing. And then it was like, okay, how can we make this into, a piece that's going to be impactful and people can watch? And so COVID kind of put a little wrench in the timeline for stuff because the vote got pushed because of that. But anyways, we did put it out in November, or the second week in November. And as we put it out, we didn't even realize how much support that Gil had online. I mean, there's Facebook groups. There's many Facebook groups of like, get Gil into the Hall of Fame. Like, he just has such a strong group of people that support him and what he does. And so having this documentary go out, having people feel like they're impacted by it, and really, did it move the needle? I don't know, but I'd like to say that it contributed a little bit to getting him, voted in.
Rob, what did his son have to say about his dad?
I mean, his son, basically, he was his hero in just all facets of his life. He spoke so highly of him, and just being able to, Gil was able to bring his son along with him to spring training, sit in the dugout, and just like, he's Gil Hodges Jr. for a reason. He looks like his dad, and he was right by his side. and just the impact of when his father did pass, because it was very sudden, just dramatically impacted his son, Gil Hodges Jr.
Now, Gil Hodges was born in 24. I think he died in 72, if I'm not
That's young.
mistaken. So he
That's
died at
young.
the age of 48. Was it a heart attack, Rob?
I believe so.
But
Yeah.
if he died in 72, that would make him under 50 years old. So, of course, his playing days were over. He had an 18-year career. But the very fact that he had died suddenly before the age of 50 is incredibly. He was incredibly young, but had a tremendous career. And also, one thing about Gil Hodges, he was a very kind, gentle soul. I know Vin Scully, who was a broadcaster, play-by-play for the Dodgers for years, Brooklyn, then with the LA Dodgers into his 90s, said he was just a class act. And there was a story told about Gil Hodges. They had just finished a road trip and were coming home. It was on a Friday, and Friday in those days meant no meat on Friday. And the stewardess on the airplane offered Gil Hodges a huge steak. And Gil Hodges said, "I can't have it. I'm Catholic and it's Friday. I can't eat this." She said, "But Gil, you could come off a long road trip. Here, have yourself a steak." She said, his great line was, "I'm very close with my boss."
Oh, what
With
a
God.
great line.
Great line. So he would, all the teammates were eating steak on the plane. It was a Friday. And Gil, like you mentioned, Rob, never missed Mass. And even as a manager, never raised his voice, never threw any of the players under the bus. But he was known as a class act. And all these big broadcasters and players, when Jackie Robinson on the screen said he was the heart and soul of the Brooklyn Dodgers, because the team, again, Brooklyn moved down to L.A., so he played with both teams there. So now, did you have a chance to meet with Vin Scully and with the other, like with his son and all that? Did you, when you did interview them, and Carl Erskine, teammates, did you meet some of these players, Rob?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be on set during that. We had different teams in the field that, because a lot of these interviews came up and very like, okay, we got to go now. And so I wasn't there, but I relived it in post-production and being able to like watch the interviews and read the transcripts. So that was really incredible for that. And just to kind of extend what you're saying too, as far as his character. So when he was a player for the Dodgers, he never was booed. And they talk about this in the documentary. He went through a long slump, and a lot of people got booed. And long time, just not one boo for Gil Hodges when he played for the Dodgers. And it just spoke to how he was a man of the people, and he was doing his best. And they talk about it was a very hot summer in Brooklyn, and the priest said, "It's too hot for a homily. Go home and say a prayer for Gil Hodges." And that was sort of the thing. And that say a prayer for Gil Hodges has been like a constant thing, especially even just through getting him into the Hall of Fame.
Take us to break, Mark.
Okay. WNDZ, 750 AM. Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. Or you can see us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We're speaking with Rob Kaczmarek, President, CEO of Spirit Juice. Maybe when we come back, Rob, even a little background. How did you get so interested in media and really sending the message of faith to folks? We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
As you think about year-end contributions, we at Catholic Charities thank you for considering a donation. 100% of every donation goes directly to our charitable work. Every donation allows us to continue to offer programs and services that affirm, strengthen, and empower those we serve as they work toward becoming self-sufficient. We are financially independent from the Archdiocese of Chicago, and we are proud of our Platinum GuideStar rating as a nonprofit. For more than 100 years, Catholic Charities has been helping homeless, hungry, and troubled neighbors in Cook and Lake counties. We would be honored to have your support in our 2021 year-end appeal. Visit CatholicCharities.net to donate or call 312-948-6087. The number again is 312-948-6087. Thank you for being partners with us in the mission of Catholic Charities.
Welcome back.
Es fabuloso verlos.
Dobrze jest znowu być razem.
It's good to be together again.
After so many months apart, pandemic capacity limits have been lifted, and we want to welcome everyone back to church. We can all pray together again. And listen as our choirs lift their voices in song.
We've been together in spirit.
And now, when you are ready, our doors are open wide.
Nuestras puertas están abiertas de par en par.
Nasze drzwi są otwarte.
And we're here to welcome you back to Catholic Mass.
Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Catholic Charities has continued to respond to the needs of people who come to us for assistance. More than 850,000 meals and food parcels have been offered to those who are struggling with food insecurity. Over 108,000 homelessness prevention hotline calls have been answered. Over 22,000 people have received mental health services, and $2 million in financial assistance has been provided to keep people housed. If you or someone you know needs assistance, email us at gethelp@catholiccharities.net. That's gethelp@catholiccharities.net. Or call 312-655-7700. That's 312-655-7700. Before, during, and after COVID-19, Catholic Charities is here for you.
We're back. WNDZ 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. Or you can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We're speaking with Rob Kaczmarek, President, CEO. Spirit Juice has done a tremendous documentary about Dodger great Gil Hodges. Greg, you have another question?
Rob, the fact that you've done a documentary on Gil Hodges, and I love sports, I love baseball. In fact, if I knew theology the way I know sports, I'd be a double doctorate. And it's in my DNA, my blood. But now, the background of Gil Hodges also included he was a very humble man, never wanted the limelight. So some say it took so long for him to get into the Hall of Fame because he never wanted the limelight, but yet year after year he built tremendous statistics, great Gold Glove winner, a great defense, steady, solid stick, slumps or no slump. Now, in all the post-production, you listen to all these interviews by Carl Erskine, Vin Scully, all the greats. How did the Life of Gil Hodges documentary touch your life?
Oh, what a great question.
That's why I get the big bucks, Rob.
It is. Hearing about so many people speak on how great of a man he was. Actually, let me take this back. I was at a funeral for someone I didn't know well, but a family member knew. I was there just kind of as a guest. And a lot of people stood up at the church and talked about how great this man was. And it was impactful. But not one person of his family stood up and said anything. And not to say that his wasn't good to the family by any means, but I thought to myself, I would want my son, or well, I have two boys, to be the one saying, like, speaking of my legacy. And so I fast forward to your question with Gil Hodges. so many people said so many great things about who Gil was, but who was the most impactful was his son. And that meant one thing particular for me. It meant he lived it on the field, at work, and at home. And I think that's what we're called to, especially for myself as a father. Like I'm running a Catholic organization, and I better live it here, right? I better live it at work. But if I'm not living it at home, and my kids and my wife aren't saying like, no, he's living his faith out, and it's like, and so Gil was a model for me in that, and saying, man, this is impactful, and just be able to see, like, you know, Tommy Lasorda, Vince Scully. Like Tommy Lasorda said, I wish I could be like him. I wish I could. If you asked me if I could be Vince Scully or be Gil Hodges, I would be him. I mean, that says something. That says something. So it really it impacted me a lot more than I thought it was gonna. I thought it was like a good, nice story about a great Catholic, and it really was a role model for people to look at, for men to look at.
Now, your answer really touched me, because so many times I've done so many funerals over the years. I've been blessed as a priest now for over 42 and a half years. And the individual might have a great public reputation. He helped this person. He did that. He was at every banquet or benefit. And yet the family struggles to say great things about him or her. And they're trying to be kind. But a guy like Gil Hodges was not only a public persona, a man of faith, who was gracious and kind on and off the field, but behind closed doors and home, when you get that type of response from his son, a loving dad, a man of faith, good to mom, good with the family, kind, that speaks volumes, especially for you, Rob, Mark. You are both dads, in Mark's case, a grandpa, and to live it not only in the public persona, at church, in the community, but at home. So your answer caught me a bit off guard, because from your perspective, having two boys, is like what struck you most. And you were listening to the greats of the greats with Vince Scully, Tommy Lasorda, Carl Erskine, all these great athletes, announcers. And by the way, Tommy Lasorda, a very devout Catholic. He was a tremendous Catholic. And I'm trying to think, is Tommy Lasorda, did he pass away?
Yes.
Yeah, he did. I just blank for a second. So tremendous response on your part.
But look at that, the impact too. Gil Hodges had died 48 years ago. And the impact still, that's the wish that you have for your son or your grandkids, is that 48 years later, he still has an impact on his son. I mean, it's a lifelong lesson.
Which means the son lost his dad at a young age. Because if Gil died in 72, his son could not have been more than a teenager at top. So he lost dad when he was young. If I have his date of death correct, in 72, he was born in 24. That's amazing. You're talking half a century later. So it, and also the very fact you didn't have a chance to interview any of these great announcers or players, but all the post-production. And it's fascinating, Rob, one person after another saying the same thing. Great remarks about him as a man of faith. He lived, he walked the talk.
And I had two questions, one related to this and then a different one. So how do people find this documentary?
Sure. So if you go to gilhodgesfilm.com, you can watch the documentary. We actually filmed with Gil Hodges Jr. The day after the announcement. So we got a little post wrap up from him talking about just the excitement of what it meant for his family. So you can watch it on our website, spirit2studios.com, but we actually have a website just for this film, which is gilhodgesfilm.com.
So gilhodgesfilm.com. And again, your studio would be, what would be the web?
Spirit Juice.
Sure. SpiritJuiceStudios.com. Or you just go to SpiritJuice.com. We own all the URLs.
Oh, good.
You get close enough.
Now, the second question, I'm a little nosy, and there are awards behind you, as a background. Do you want to speak to any of those awards that mean something to you, that really had an impact on you?
Definitely. So they're Chicago regional Emmys. We've won a few of them on different projects you've done. And our first one was on a little short film called Salve Regina, which essentially was a Franciscan friar skateboarding throughout Chicago. And the background music was Salve Regina, sung by that same friar. And we put some orchestration through it. And we had a lot of impact with it online. And it was recommended, like, hey, this might do well. And so we submitted to the Chicago Regional Emmys, and it won. It was incredible. Wow. And we went to the ceremony with the friar, and people. It was a really it was something for us that faith was able to cut through the mainstream. Mm-hmm. In a way that people weren't expecting. And that's the reason. So the friar, he skateboarded prior becoming, religious life. And then they asked him to pick it up because they noticed that he was at a high school and there was a skateboard there, and he just kind of was messing around, and he was able to talk about, the kids were listening, right? Mm-hmm. Like Franciscan comes in and he's talking, kids may pay attention or not. Franciscan's on a skateboard and then starts talking. The kids are like, oh, okay. Well, they're more attuned. And so I think that's a challenge for all of us in our faith of how do we incorporate it in our life with the natural gifts that God's given us in a way that can really shine forward, because that's, I feel like, how God's able to really penetrate through a lot of the hard spots in the world today.
Do you know, Father, you could do a documentary, Father Greg on a unicycle. He's an expert on
I'm now
I ride a unicycle too. We gotta hang out. We seriously have to hang out.
Now, Rob, for those that are watching live stream, I'm
Yes.
watching the video right now of the friar on the skateboard. Was this taken by Montrose Harbor? Some of this footage?
Yep, all in Chicago. What's crazy too is it was 3 days of filming, all back to back. The nature stuff was actually Starved Rock, but we went out to film and it started just pouring rain, like so much so that we're like, oh, we should probably just call it quits. And it was my mantra of show up and stay. I was like, no, we're gonna stay, because he had to fly, and at the time he was living in Perth, Australia, so our time was very limited. I was like, rain or shine, we're gonna film with him. And because we did, and the rain stopped, the sky just became just like that, as you can see in the film, just so epic and beautiful as the sun came down.
Stunning.
And so I mean, Montrose Harbor, you can see a little bit by Millennium Park.
Yes.
And then throughout the
And
city a little
Starved
bit
Rock.
as well.
And things, you have 3
In
days
Starved Rock.
of videotaping with this guy, with this friar, and according to, I'm looking at the footage right here, he's like a skateboard expert.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good.
I mean, this guy is good. I mean, he's flipping the board and getting back on it again. And geez, Mark, I'm glad I'm walking.
Where do they find Salve Regina? Is it again on your website or?
Yep. Yeah, you can find that on spiritustudios.com.
It's a wonderful video for young adults in a parish to articulate their faith in a language they would understand. That's great.
How about this, Mark? Take us to break.
Sure.
Rob, we got a lot more questions for you, so don't go away.
Love it.
WNDZ, 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. Or you can see us on YouTube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi here with Father Greg, and we're talking to Rob Kaczmark, President, CEO, Spirit Juice. Really, you're creating evangelization tools in a contemporary way, which we'll explore more when we come back from our break. Please stay tuned.
At Catholic Charities, we fight hunger in Chicago throughout the year. Our 6 regional offices in Cook and Lake counties work together to offer sit-down and to-go meals to anyone in need. We deliver meals to those who are homebound, and our 8 food pantries offer 3 to 4 days of food supplies based on household size. Participants in these programs have the opportunity to learn about other Catholic charity services that strengthen individuals, families, and their communities. The challenges for those dealing with food insecurity are especially great during the winter months. To learn how you can help those who are hungry in your neighborhood, visit CatholicCharities.net or call 312-655-7525. That's 312-655-7525. Thank you for your generosity.
I feel special. I feel great. I got good grades.
We've seen a huge surge in our kids now meeting or exceeding grade level. Come check us out. You may have never thought we were an option before.
The cemetery ministry is a core ministry of our Catholic faith tied to the corporal works of mercy. It's comforting to know that our Catholic cemeteries are caring for the remains of our loved ones awaiting the resurrection. There are 44 Archdiocese of Chicago Catholic cemeteries willing to help you in your time of loss. Call 708-449-6100 or visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org. Catholic Cemeteries, serving the Catholic community since 1837.
You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Now again, Catholic Chicago.
We're back. Catholic Chicago, WNDZ, 750 AM, 312-255-8408, or you can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sakowicz here, Mark Tracy here with Father Greg. We're talking to Rob Kaczmark, President, CEO of Spirit Juice. Great conversation. And I'm so grateful and edified that your involvement is taking the gospel message and making it contemporary and letting people understand that. Now, this is a little background, but then I'm going to ask you this question. So I've cantored for years. I was at Old St. Pat's 8 years. Our little guys we have two sons, 2 daughters. Our little guys were growing up. At the end of Mass, Marty would run up and want to sing. He'd just break from my wife, run up to the altar and sing. So, he gets that part. And then in his life, he's been involved in plays and singing and cantoring. And but what about your two guys? How do they see what you do? Do they understand what you do, and how do they react to it? Are they already little filmers filming things?
A little bit, yeah. So my boys are 3 and 5. My 3-year-old is a little too young to fully get it. So he just likes to be around me and wrestle. He's definitely a rough and tough kind of kid. But my 5-year-old gets it, and he's in kindergarten now. So what's really interesting is just the age we live in now. Kids at school talk about being a YouTuber. So he kind of calls his dad a YouTuber because I make videos for YouTube. And then they always want to come to my work because there's always cameras set up and. When sets are there, they want to be there. And what's cool is we'll be watching something and he'll go, "Dad, that was a drone shot, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was a drone shot."
Wow.
That's great.
So it's
wow.
fun.
And he's 5 years old.
He's 5, yeah.
Saying that. Now, I have to ask this question, Rob, and that is, you spoke out briefly before. You were born and raised South Side, St. Germain. Where did you get this love for videography, for filming, for this whole industry, this type of work? Does this go back to grammar school, high school? Who impacted your life? Was there a certain teacher, neighbor, family member?
When it comes to the creative stuff, I would attribute my parents are. I'd be. Once you become a parent, it gives you a different perspective, right? You kind of have a certain view on your parents and just your child growing up, and then you become a parent. And for me, I was like, man, I had the best parents. And so I think my mom was so foundational in my faith. And I would like to say my mom was very creative, and sort of the creative spirit was from her. I wasn't necessarily the person that always had a camera or always, was making things of video nature, but I was always making things. And my parents were always so supportive of that, both my mom and my dad. And so my mom was a cradle Catholic. My dad actually became a Catholic, was baptized when I was Catholic, when I got baptized. So he was,
wow.
I believe he was Lutheran. And my mom always told me, and well, both of them did, that Dad got baptized with you. And that for me, that just felt like such a okay, I don't know what it was, but it just felt like this energy behind that,
Mm-hmm.
and some, God calling my dad to the Catholic faith in that capacity.
That is wonderful. That's just, and then now taking the creative side, you could have gone with this creativity in so many different areas. How did you choose video? How did you choose film? How did you choose a production company? There's so many areas you could have turned to with creativity. How did this one happen?
For me, it was video became, I think, the strongest way to impact stuff. So like a lot of people, when The Passion of the Christ came out, it was in 2000 and, oh gosh, it's been so long. Was it 2004?
Somewhere early 2000s, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there was religious movies prior to that, right? And I'm not saying The Passion of the Christ was a perfect movie, but it was a movie that, for me, impacted me in such a level where I'm like, wow, this medium can really show and bring you to an experience that in no other capacity. And so I remember taking The Passion and cutting it up into Stations of the Cross and playing it at Saint Germain in these with modern music and stuff, and just seeing the impact of it. Like, wow, video can really take a person in a short amount of time and have them have an experience with God with that. And so I was just sort of addicted to the feeling that you can that with video in the power of God, you can combine those two together to bring people to an experience and hopefully draw them closer to their faith in God.
Now, I don't want to digress too much, but as you're telling that story and your perspective, I had forgotten about this, but my wife did not want to go. I went with my daughter, and our son was maybe 13, 14 at that point, to see The Passion of Christ. And the scourging, I mean, it's very realistic.
Very, very real.
And you need to be able to
Very
talk
visual.
to your kids about that. But we were at Mass the next Sunday, and during the consecration, when he said, "This is my blood," he leaned over me and said, "Dad, I'll never see that the same way again." And I thought, that's the impact. That is the power.
And he was 13?
13 years old. Yeah. Now, you have a outreach toward young folks too. What kind of stuff are you doing with young people? This is a tremendous tool to catechize and evangelize young people, because you're entering their world instead of saying, here's what you need to know, figure it out. You're saying, here's an image, start thinking about it, let it be absorbed. So what's going on in that part of your world?
Sure. So going back to Saint Germain, I was a youth minister for a number of years and worked with, teens and young adults. And I think it was such an impactful age to help them grow in their faith. But sometimes you realize, man, it would have been more if we could have reached them a little bit earlier, right? Maybe preteen or even a little bit younger. So it's always in the back of my head. And then, as I had kids, and then realizing wow, they like to watch TV. They like to watch different shows. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great shows. There's some not so good ones, but Daniel Tiger, Blue's Clues, a lot of things that are good for the kids, Sesame Street. But there really wasn't anything that would teach the faith. And so that I flash back to my youth ministry days of if we can plant the seeds of faith, especially the seeds of a Catholic faith in young kids, 3 to 6, that's prime time for stuff. And there's very few people doing that right now, especially on a Catholic level. And so I call it 5 years in the making, but we launched it this year, a Catholic kid show. It's called Juice Box, to play off of our name, Spirit Juice. And it's a way to entertain, because I think there's a lot of educational stuff, but for young kids, I remember, if they're laughing, they're learning. That was sort of the mantra when teaching CCD or the youth ministry. So it's got to be fun. You have to entertain the kids, but you can enrich and show them the Catholic faith and explain that, because, we go to mass every Sunday, and a lot of times my boys are like, well, what's this or what's that? And trying to teach them different ways, and having a video, a tool that any parent, because the goal is this, it goes on YouTube and anyone can watch it, no paywall, no nothing. And for a young parent to show their young kids the Catholic faith in a way that they could comprehend, for me, it's a home run or even a grand slam.
Now, I'm looking at the video here on screen with Juicebox. So when does it air and what time, and how can someone see Juicebox?
So right now it's a very early, I want to say we launched it. We shot the first episode, which is on prayer, and you're seeing an excerpt from that. That first episode will launch in January, and then we're going to be filming 2 more episodes in spring of next year. The nenext one's on Mass, and then also the ABCs of Catholic. So like, what does it mean to be Catholic? I remember my son was like, what's Catholic? And I was like, well, it's we're Christians, but it's, and trying to explain to a 5-year-old, I'm on the way to church. I'm like, okay, I don't have the tools in my head right now. If you were a teen, I know what to say, but as a 5-year-old, I don't know what to say. So ways we can explain our faith to young people, to young kids, really. And, if you go to SpiritJuiceKids.com, you could see the first look. You can kind of see what's up there right now. And you can donate, because the reality is costs a lot to make. So we've been essentially, what we've made at Spirit Juice Studios, we've been investing back into this. So we've put, to be honest, it costs about $50,000 to make the first episode.
Wow. $50,000.
We're doing it $50,000. But here's the thing. We're making it look like TV. Like, if you watch an episode of Blue's Clues, or you watch an episode of whatever your favorite kids TV show is, it costs you're talking 6 figures for that stuff. So we're able to do it on the same level, in an efficient way, but that teaches the faith. There's a quote on our website. It's like, you'll never see Daniel Tiger riding the trolley to Mass, or you never see Elmo teaching you the sign of the cross. And that's what we want to do. We want to have something that the kids love and enjoy. And it's just like, I want to watch Juicebox. And parents could just, rest assured that like they're learning the faith throughout that. So I'm just so excited about Juicebox.
So Rob, let me give you a marketing tip. Market to the grandparents. Sometimes
that's a good idea.
The parents may or may not, the millennials may or may not even get the faith piece, even though they were schooled and raised in it.
But many have walked away.
But many grandparents sit with their grandkids and will turn that program on and sit with them and explain things to them. So there's a whole generation of folks to appeal to, I think, that it would make a lot of sense.
I think it's also, as I'm listening about this Juicebox and the whole company you own, Rob, your company could have gone into many different directions. You could have done exclusively a company on sports, on theater, on history, on making documentaries, but you have chose your Catholic faith as a venue for this company to get the word of God out through videos and meeting people where they're at. How did that happen? How did you consciously say, this production company we have called, President and CEO of Spirit Juicebox or Studios, will be exclusively for Catholic productions and bringing the word of God through a medium that young people, people of all ages, can so relate to? You're capturing the times that we live in.
I have to attribute this to my father. I was a freshman, going to be a freshman in high school, and I was just starting to get, interested in my faith. It was something I started praying on a regular basis, but I wasn't too into it, right? I was like, okay, there's something here.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, who was Catholic at the time, but wasn't, super like gung-ho with a lot of things, said, hey, as a family, we're going to go on a pilgrimage to Europe, in a real pilgrimage, like, sleeping in, not hotels, but like, like homes that people lent out. And it was a little out of character for my dad, because although the faith was important, for my dad to say, hey, we're going on a pilgrimage, was like, okay. And so I was a little hesitant, because it was going to be on my birthday, and I was like, I don't want to be in like a third world country on my birthday, and like whatever. But I remember going on that pilgrimage, and I was like, oh my gosh, everything I've been learning about my faith is real. Like it just hit me on such a deep level. And really from that moment, it was just like, it's almost like, it's like this, like, I can't not live for God, because it's like, if God's the best and truest thing, then why would I do something else? And that's not to say you having a production company that just serves sports stuff or whatever topic is not that. But for me, the calling was imprinted so heavily in my heart that I couldn't do anything else.
The question is, what countries did your family go to on this pilgrimage?
So it was in former Yugoslavia, in Croatia. It was actually at Medjugorje, but I know, in recent years it's come with different stuff. I just know when I went as a young kid in the late 90s, where you basically climbed a mountain, prayed the rosary like 30 times a day. It was just like, it was a totally, come from the suburbs here to over there. It was a life-changing experience, and it was just something that I just realized the faith was real.
What year did you graduate high school?
2001.
You're 2001. Mark, take us to break.
Okay. WNDZ, 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408, or you can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Tracy here, joining Father Greg, and we're talking to Rob Kaczmarek, President, CEO, Spirit Juice. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about more how people can connect with this wonderful work, and maybe give people a little heads up on maybe a couple projects coming up. We'll be back. Please stay tuned.
Catholic Charities in Lake County provides a comprehensive range of social services supporting individuals, families, and older adults. These include crisis assistance, shelter, clothing, family support, counseling, legal assistance, primary health care, and specialized services for seniors and veterans. Grab-and-go meals and food pantries help those who are experiencing food insecurity. Plus, we have a diaper depot to support low-income families and their infants. If we can assist you or someone you know, please call Catholic Charities of Lake County at 847-782-4000. That's 847-782-4000.
We are at the Most Blessed Trinity Parish Food Pantry in Waukegan.
And here we care for people in need. There was definitely an uptick in the needs for services.
We doubled our volume after COVID hit, from servicing about 250 families a week to about 500 a week. We supplied bread, tortillas, vegetables, milk, cheese, butter, proteins, fish, chicken, eggs.
Well, the Annual Catholic Appeal has been a tremendous help to us, especially over the past year and a half.
Without the Annual Catholic Appeal, we might have to close our doors. Our parish is the largest one in the Archdiocese, but is very poor. We think about food and we think about nourishment, but we also nourish the soul, provide that connection to humanity.
The good works here are made possible through the Annual Catholic Appeal. Make your gift at annualcatholicappeal.com. As you think about year-end contributions, we at Catholic Charities thank you for considering a donation. 100% of every donation goes directly to our charitable work. Every donation allows us to continue to offer programs and services that affirm, strengthen, and empower those we serve as they work toward becoming self-sufficient. We are financially independent from the Archdiocese of Chicago, and we are proud of our Platinum GuideStar rating as a nonprofit. For more than 100 years, Catholic Charities has been helping homeless, hungry, and troubled neighbors in Cook and Lake counties. We would be honored to have your support in our 2021 year-end appeal. Visit CatholicCharities.net to donate or call 312-948-6087. The number again is 312-948-6087. Thank you for being partners with us in the mission of Catholic Charities.
We're back. WNDZ 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408, or you can see us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Tracy here speaking with Rob Kazmark, President and CEO of Spirit Juice. An aside, you were at St. Germain's. Did you ever work with Maureen Shields in the Courage program? I don't know.
She's back.
Oh, there you are. There you are.
Oh, yeah.
Could you?
I do remember that. Yeah. That's wow.
I mean, in
that
terms
brings you
of
back.
Ministry, just that's a shout out to Maureen. Her daughter now runs Courage program. They work with expectant mothers. They have a beautiful program. They reach out to people all around the Archdiocese. If you ever are in a spot where you can afford to support a ministry like that, that'd be a beautiful video that your guys could do, but I'm not telling you what to do. So anyway, let me ask it this way. So there was a program on Channel 11 some years back, and a woman would help people decide what their job was, and she'd sit with them, and she'd say she'd wait for the person to smile. The minute they smiled is what their involvement should be.
Interesting.
And so you smile during this whole, I mean, our listeners on radio can't see it, but Rob, you have a great smile. There's just a joy about what you're doing. I mean, you want to just speak to that a little bit?
Oh, thank you. That's a very pleasant compliment. You know what, joy is a choice, right? Because there's a lot. You can look at everything going on right now and be like, I can't be happy. I can't be happy because A, B, C, and D. Or you could look at all the great things going on. And so you can't wait for your life to be perfect to decide to be happy. And so, right now, after this, there's many fires and many things I have to put out and deal with. But the joy inside you, and the joy comes from Christ, and really feeding that every week with the Eucharist. It's a choice though, right? So you got to choose to be happy and choose joy each day.
I like to think, there's a big difference between joy and happiness. Happiness is very fleeting. Happiness would be winning the lottery, the Cubs winning the World Series, which will never happen. We're Sox fans, Rob.
It did happen.
And it happened in 16, it's true. Won't happen again, though, for a long time. But joy is from the heart, is the deepest part of oneself. So happiness is fine, but a huge difference between happy and joy-filled. And also, it's interesting, Rob, in the work that you do, you are living out Christ in the work that you do. So in some ways, you're not even going to work because Christ seems to be your work, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Day in and day out with what you're doing. Now, are there fires to put out and bills to be paid, and your boys can sometimes be boys and fighting and all that good stuff? Sure. But somehow you're putting in perspective, living the faith through your work. And also I find, Mark, in the work that Rob does, your creativity and reaching through a medium, this is where young people are at. They are on YouTube. They're into all the stuff that you're doing. This is their world. This is the world, and you're meeting them on their turf. And what future projects do you have forthcoming, Rob? What's on the horizon beside a juice box?
So we just finished up the year of St. Joseph, which was an awesome year. We did a documentary on St. Joseph, did St. Joseph Novenas, but now we're going to be working with the Year of the Eucharist. I think it's a 2-year thing with the USCCB on some really incredible films on the Eucharist, both for the USCCB and for the Knights of Columbus. So it's as much as I can sort of tease, maybe I said a little too much, but Eucharist is going to be core. And we're planning a follow-up to the Salve Regina with the Franciscan Friars skateboarding, Eucharist focused. So a lot on the Eucharist. It's all about the Eucharist, as it always is.
That is it's marvelous. And now again, if somebody would like to learn more about Spirit Juice Studios, how can they learn more about it? Give us the website again.
Yeah, spiritjuicestudios.com. Or you can just Google Spirit Juice. We're on all the different social media platforms. We put out content every day on all the platforms. And so, yes, check us out, Spirit Juice.
And again, if they want to learn more about the Gil Hodges story, go to where?
That'd be gilhodgesfilm.com. And we'll be having that follow-up video where we got to film with Gil Hodges Jr. the day after the announcement, and kind of hear his joy and excitement and what that means for him and his family and all that on that website as well, gilhodgesfilm.com.
Now, just backing up, go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say, let's get real for a minute. So you're president and CEO of Spirit Juice. What are the big challenges as a business in this arena?
I don't think we have enough time.
In 30 seconds.
You know,
that's another program.
Yeah, no, listen, I mean, as any business owner, it's running a business is hard. It's not for the faint of heart. Running a business that is in the Catholic world. And so always having with the perspective of like, yes, is this good for the business? But is this good for my faith? Am I serving others in this? And then on top of that, the creativity and the production company part of it, it's just so many different layers. So it's complex. I couldn't do it without my faith. I couldn't do it without praying. I couldn't do it without God. So all glory to God for all the good things. And in the meantime, it's a pray, work, or pray, work, whatever the quote is. So it's a lot of hard work, but not without prayer.
What I find fascinating is that you are rooted in prayer, rooted in the Lord. Did you ever go through a phase in your life, Rob, where you distance from the Lord? We all go through the dark night of the soul. It can happen in grammar school, high school, college years, young adult years. How about in your life?
I definitely did. Yeah, I would say in my 20s. And I wouldn't say it was something that was, I still was going through the motions. I almost wanted, it was right before Spirit Juice Studios started what it was. It's a production company. I was getting a little bit involved in the radio program. And I was like, I almost wanted to just go sort of like off the wall. And I just felt like I couldn't. And it was just God saying, just stay on the path. I think a lot of it depends on your habits, right? So if your habits are going to mass and doing that, it just seems normal to keep going that. So I just kind of stayed in my normal habits, although I felt just like not wanting to practice my faith, not wanting to do different things. And I just kept going. And then, that's just how faith is and how life is. There's ups and downs. And sometimes you feel very excited about your faith and you're so passionate. And sometimes it just feels like a regular thing that you're doing and you're not sure why, but that's what keeps you grounded is you just keep going. And it's not about feelings. Your faith is not about feelings. You don't believe in God because you feel good about it. Yeah. You believe in God because you choose to that and you've made a choice and you keep going on that.
In fact, it's interesting. When I was a high school senior, a line that changed my life, and it goes like this: our being here on earth is God's gift to us. What we do with our life is our gift back to God. And that line had a profound impact on my life and changed the course of my life from wanting to be a sportscaster and turned down a scholarship to Northwestern to enter the college seminary, Niles College, back in 71, ordained a priest with the gift of God, through the gift of God in 79. We need to bring the program to a close. I want to thank in a very special way Rob Kaczmarek, President and CEO of Spirit Juice Studios. Rob, you have been a phenomenal guest.
Yes,
thank you very much. You do have that $1 million smile. Your energy, your enthusiasm for the Lord and the work you do comes out loud and clear. So God bless you and your family. Keep up the great work. Special thank you to co-host Mark Teresi. Great job, Mark.
And happy New Year.
And with the program today airing on December 30th and again playback on January 4th. And we're taping this in early mid-December. Special thanks also to our producers, to Michael May, Brian Hockey Hitman Bragg. Thanks. Great job, gentlemen. To all of you.
And Javier.
God bless.
Javier.
And Javi Garcia. And blessings into the new year.
Join us every Monday through Friday at this time for Catholic Chicago. You can stream our programs live or listen to past programs by visiting our website, archchicago.org, and clicking on Radio TV. And please connect with Catholic Chicago on social media.